back to What the Frap. I'm your host, J-Zilla, and I have with me here today Anthony Richard. How are you, sir? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing all right, my good brother. How
I'm
you
well,
doing?
thank you so much for asking. So tell the people out there who don't know you a little bit about yourself, man.
Just a regular person, man. Uh, from Columbia. As far as middle school and high school go,
Mm.
did my middle and high school in Columbia. A little time in Spring Hill before that. I moved back and forth from Michigan, Tennessee, back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Once again, I am a father. That is probably the biggest thing in life to me. Most important thing I have going. Trying to make sure I can teach him something.
Amen to that.
So he can carry on some stuff.
I know I've known you for a long time. I remember our middle school days together. Well, vaguely, how much does one really remember? But you've always been the type of person who is a teacher, a coach in life, in sports, or anything. Just to share a quick story from us, I remember I was in a tryout for the basketball team. This had to be sixth grade. And I remember this little kid coming over to me saying like, "Hey, don't worry about whether you make it or not. Right now, they're just looking at your form." And then just kind of coached me through my form. And I will, spoiler alert, I did not make it my sixth grade year. Seventh grade, I think I made JV and worked my way to varsity. And then finally varsity in eighth grade. But yeah, way back then, you were already teaching and, you're already parent ready, seems like. Just kind of like you've been here before and so yeah, I understand what you're saying about that father thing, man. How old is your child?
My son is 5 years old. He's 5 years old.
5 years. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So I have a three and a,
He's 5 years old. He definitely has a 12-year-old locked inside of
just a little bit,
him. He's a good guy.
just a little bit ahead of his time. So I have a 3 and a 1 year old. Any advice that you can give me? What do I have to look forward to? Oh,
Everything,
okay.
everything, everything to look forward to. But yeah, man, just try to just take it all in strides the best I can tell you. Provide them with some fun because that energy they have is very high. You don't allow them to get some of that out, and you know you'll see the results. But just keep them with something to do, man, and try to teach them as much as you think they can learn at that moment. You know, whatever it is you think their brain will hold on to, go ahead and teach it to them. I don't believe in waiting until the kid's 7 to talk to him about this or that. I think his brain will hold it. We go ahead and talk about it.
Well, that definitely makes sense to me because I try to expose our children to as much as possible. And maybe they get it, maybe they don't. But I think as a parent, that's part of being a parent is just exposing them to things over and over until they finally, something clicks. So tell me a little bit about your
Yeah.
business.
If you
Oh,
don't,
sorry. Go ahead.
I just said if you don't, somebody else will. So yeah, most definitely,
Absolutely.
most
So tell
definitely.
me a little bit about your business.
I have a clothing store in Columbia. Um, um, it is on Carmack Boulevard. It's called the Trend
Mm.
Clothing Company. Um, I opened that with a friend of mine. You know him as T. Willie, Travis Porter. Uh, yeah, we just had an idea and decided to run with it and brought it to life.
That's
That's my baby as far as business goes, but I'm always on the hunt, on the look.
that's pretty amazing, man. I never really understood until I tried to do something on my own. This ideal of you have a thought like, wouldn't it be cool if I, own a business store? Talk to me a little bit about the process of how you went from just you and your friends just kind of talking about it, which I'm assuming happened first, and then actually putting some action behind it and making it happen.
Well, For me personally, it was a little bit of a different venture. Actually, before I started the process of the clothing store, I was involved in a barbershop.
Mm,
And, I had invested some money, loaned some money out for that to take place. And once it kind of got going, um, we decided that we weren't going to do a actual partnership. We were just going to do a little interest on the loan.
okay.
And after we decided that, I put my time into trying to find a business for myself. And spoke with a friend of mine, man, and he was like, I got this going and that going. And, um, I probably would be rolling pretty good, man, but I'm having some problems out of my partner. We need to do this, or we need to buy that, or we need to, get this together. He's always got an excuse versus
Ah,
action. Man, really need a better partner, man, to get all of this stuff situated. Like, you can take a spot if you want, man. You just have to buy him out.
you would have those.
You got to get a buyout.
You would have those
Yeah,
same
I'd have
problems
to
with me.
buy,
I tell you, I'm more of a worker bee, man. I do well in situations. That's
yeah,
why I think I excelled at sports. I had somebody who had a plan together, and they said, "Look, I need you to do this," and it was yes, sir, and I just went along with it. I dipped into a little bit of coaching. I did some little league coaching there with shout out to Sidney Williams and Book, man, Columbia Lions down there at Pop Warner. So that was my first coaching experience. And then, I moved to New Mexico with my family, and then got an opportunity out here with the Monarchs here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And it was just really a great experience. But that was the first time I really had to take lead on something. But I'm more comfortable just kind of taking orders and just put my head down and working. I don't mind working.
yeah. I understand that. I understand that.
Absolutely. So yeah, you don't want me as a business partner. So those types of things, like the little bitty things that makes a business pop, like location. How did you come up with that? How did you come up with promotions and things of that nature? Break so like just let us in on the behind the scenes.
Well, the location was already picked out, and thank goodness it was a great location. It's right on Carmack, which is one of our prime
Mm,
streets. So the bulk of the traffic is going to travel around the road, one way or another. So that was the location deal, but everything else, I was very closely involved in as far as the naming of the store and the business and the look of it, you know, how we would uh how we would present it, um, what we would have in it. There's a lot of decisions to make when it comes down to opening a brick and mortar store. But we got it all done. Um, it was a fun process.
mm,
It was a fun process. I enjoyed. I like to put things together, be able to see my product at the end. Me start from scratch, kind of a building. It's not inviting when you walk in to, finishing it up, having all of these bright colors everywhere, pictures, posters, TV screen, furniture, and plants, and clothes. It's really, you know, turn that thing around.
yeah. Well, that sounds very interesting. So when I'm thinking about a store owner, I'm always on the consumer side of things. So talk to me a little bit about being a black, business owner. Do you ever think about, kind of back in the day when, people are like looking at you and like, sir, may I help you? It's like, man, you just doing this because I'm black. So you feel differently about that now, being a store owner yourself?
Um, I I try not to use the schematics, so
Mm,
to speak. Um, I do know that that's a very factual thing that you can kind of sit down and culturalize people and uh, sort of put a plan together on how to deal with. That is a real thing.
Mm.
But I'm more of a genuine person, man. I'm a passionate, genuine person. I read every person individually. Give everybody a chance on their own accord and deal with them that way. Versus excuse my whatever it may be. The thank you, buddy. Have a nice day
Mm.
approach, which is I tell people, a lot of those foreigners, man, have the best businesses in the neighborhood. The most booming businesses, and all of these people feel like, oh yeah, man, such and such, that's my boy, man. Dude doesn't care anything for it. No. But what he does do is want to run a good business. He wants to get that money. So the hello, buddy, have a nice day. That's it. Wouldn't matter who you were, what you look like, what you smelled like. Any of these. No, there's no factor to keep them from saying that to you, other than you stealing.
Okay.
As long as you're paying him, you're gonna be buddy friend with smile. They will keep you coming back. Whereas I've noticed a lot of black businesses, it's just kind of like, you walk in the store, like, okay, you're here, do your thing.
Mm.
You still have to be invited, you still have to be, you have to be human. So, I just take the simple approach, man, and treat people like people.
I like that.
Have a
Treat
conversation.
people like people. Yeah, that's a pretty good way to look at it. So, what's one of the craziest things that have happened to you with a customer?
Uh, I wouldn't say, man, it's been too crazy yet, man, as far as um, cu- customers are concerned. We had a young brother do a video shoot in there, um, and that was kind of crazy. That was a little wild. He was cleaning up money for a couple of days. He was throwing money all around the place. That was wild. That was fun. We really haven't had any crazy customers. Just cool customers. Just people coming in and being very celebratory of the fact that it's a new business, uh, getting what they need, and that satisfies us. So it's been a pretty happy exchange of business. So I've really seen the BS side of the chick.
Well, that's good. I hope that continues. So, in the midst of COVID-19 and all these things that we have going on, how's that impacted your business?
Well, currently we just have taken a hiatus, so to speak, because uh, personal uh, personal feelings toward this whole virus and the way it's affecting everybody, and just based off of the climate that we see, you know, um, we probably could go ahead and open back up now the store physically, and do okay. But we just personally don't want to put ourselves at risk for silly reasons. We are leaning toward doing a little bit of business online right now. But when we first opened the doors, that was never my agenda. I always wanted to, I'm from the generation directly before Instagram and Facebook, and uh, even we might have caught the MySpace movie, but it wasn't that serious. It wasn't that serious. Now people don't speak to each other. They like each other's pictures, you know, poke each other, whatever it is that you do, people do that. Um, I'm a much more personal guy. It's more face to face, talk to me, shake my hand. I get to know people that way. So I wanted you to have to physically come in the store and get that experience. I wanted you to come in the doors and see all the colors and the clothes hanging, hear the music playing, and see what's on the TV, sit with us, talk to us for a while. You know, wanted to be an experience.
I like that. And last time I was there, I didn't get a chance to go by and at least see the shop. I know y'all on hiatus with everything going on, but uh, that's interesting. I feel like there are a lot of businesses out there that really thrive on an experience versus just a financial transaction. But during this time that you have to sort of adjust with the times, and you kind of age yourself, man. Mentioning MySpace, I had to I had to keep myself from laughing. But what does a business like yours look like in the future? Is it going to be like you said, you were working on some online things? Is that Facebook shop or an actual website? Anything you have going now that you can promote?
I mean, there's definitely an Instagram. Um, if anybody is checking that out, that's the Trend Clothing Company. It's on Instagram and Facebook. It will be the Trend Clothing Co. Um, abbreviated. So the Trend Clothing Co. But yeah, you can check that out on Instagram and Facebook. We are building a website, um, and I'm debating right now. We're in talks with each other about doing transaction token. But as it stands right now, I like I I like the personal side of it. I like the
Yeah. What about some sort of video interactions? Like, hey, welcome to the store, blah blah blah. I gotta stop doing that. But what about some sort of like video and I know there's some copyright issues, but
I, I say, I do a lot of things like that, but personally, um, people that I know, that's how they shop a lot of times. They'll just call me, FaceTime me or something. I'll kind of walk around the store. They'll say, "What's that?" When you want to know. I do that personally right now, but as far as interacting with the public that way, I haven't done. So I am thinking about that box truck that I bought. It's, the 26-foot box truck. I'm thinking about wrapping it, the store's name on it, pulling up in Nashville and some of those events and whatnot. Open the back door, um, do business that way.
man,
Kind of have it set up like the store a little bit.
that sounds like Biggie selling his CDs when he first started at the trunk. Do you have to do anything like a food truck, like get permits and things like of that nature, or you're just saying like guerrilla warfare, just popping up on you like, hey man, look, got these shirts.
Yeah. From time to time, yeah, man, we may just do it like that. That's part of my nature.
Mm.
You know, yeah, from time to time, yeah, we will just hit the road, pull up somewhere, and just uh, apologize later.
I like that.
versus
Yeah.
versus asking for permission. You know what I mean? But yeah, there a lot of times for different things you have to have permits for this and that. But it just depends on where you do it and how you do it. And so we've run plenty of functions that you're supposed to have this permit, that permit, but based on where we ran the function, they didn't care what we did anyway.
Mm.
Nobody came and checked on that. But if I did it in a certain place, I knew I had to have all the ducks.
Do you have
Just depends on what you're doing.
do you have any? Yeah,
No,
no,
go
my
ahead.
bad. Do you have any sort of reverb thing going with other entrepreneurs locally? Just something to where you guys kind of promote each other. Y'all do events together. Anything of that nature?
Um, we haven't really done a lot of events with people. We've done a couple of parties with other organizations. We've done that few times. Um, we all piggyback each
Mm,
other. I hope that that continues to grow. Um, but I think that we're all proud of each other for what we've done. I think that um, the people that have a business, especially a brick and mortar business that's open, we all know what we went through to get that. So we all try to support each other. Even the people that have not made it to that stage yet, I still try to support them as well because it's difficult in every phase. So without each other's support, be anything we can do anyway. So, yeah, we all try to show love to each other,
that's good.
root for each other's
That's good.
business.
I really like that sort of a grind. Like I said, a lot of people say, a lot of people, I've had people tell me that I'm meant to be a leader of some sorts. Like I said, I feel more comfortable just kind of taking orders, putting my head down and working. Um, but it's really nice to see people who can just self motivate and have just sheer will. Like this Chadwick Boseman thing, seeing him or hearing his story of kind of, I mean, how shocking it was for him to die so suddenly, or at least it seemed like that to us, because he kept his personal issues
Yeah.
personal, and he just showed up to work. I mean, he did I think 11 movies during while he was going back and forth to chemo and all these other treatments, and he was I guess on another project and about to start another one. So this sort of thing of people just being able to kind of self motivate and keep themselves out of it and just show up and work. You with your business to just have an idea and then come forward with an action plan. Like yeah, I really appreciate seeing that kind of grind.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. Um, just doing what we got to do at the end of the day. When you make a decision to do something, you got to get it done. So just doing what it takes to get it done. But a lot of times that's what separates people
Mm.
is you know, are you willing to actually walk? We heard you talk. Now, what are you gonna do?
Right.
So a lot of times that's what separates. Yeah, man, we got it done though. I'm very proud of it. It's, like I said, that's my baby as far as business. I'm also working on. I've got basically a large outdoor kitchen. Um, it used to be, I don't know, a lot of people don't know the brand Nathan's. A lot of people do. Just kind of depends on where you're from.
Oh, we know Nathan's.
But it's large. Okay, it's a really big Nathan's. Guess you call it a hot dog cart or stand or whatever. But it's huge. And I'm looking at adding a few different functions to it and changing the. I don't want the Nathan's name on it. I want to have that business as a startup business for my son, and I'm planning on calling it Chiefs. My son's nickname is Chief. Call him the Chief. So I'm going to call this thing Chiefs, and I'm going to probably use a cartoon image of him, a little apron on the chef's hat or something like that. And yeah, man, let that be his start off. You know, so I'm trying to put some energy into that too. Is that's gonna have a lot of value as far as teaching value goes, and us spending time together doing something that we enjoy doing, but also teaching them to make some money at the same time.
Man, that is.
I look
I look
forward.
forward to seeing that too, man. Is that your version of a lemonade stand? Because stereotypically, kids selling lemonade. That's how.
Yeah, basically, maybe we skip that phase, but we're gonna sell some lemonade too. We're gonna sell some lemonade, maybe a little. He wants to sell snow cones
Mm,
specifically too, so I got to get him a snow cone. But we're gonna have all of that on there and let him do his thing, man. We'll pull up at these games and different functions outdoors and let him get to this money.
that's
And
awesome.
let him learn to be a hustler, learn the right way. excited
You
about
know,
it.
we've had several conversations probably about just what we can do to get our kids and really our communities with this type of mindset. What drives you to push that entrepreneur mindset to people and ownership and education and things of that nature?
Um, just knowing, man, and seeing, between movies and real life situations and and having my own life and situations to deal with, um, man, a job can change your life. And I mean in a good way or a bad way, you know. But the way that sickens me is knowing that, okay, you go to work every day, you putting in all this time for this company. It's not yours, but you're putting in all this time
Mm-hmm.
for this company. And one morning the company wakes up and decides, you know what, we don't want you to work here anymore. But you've just secured a new house, a new car, you got a new baby on the way, and no check coming in 2 weeks, So the power that they hold in their hand with that don't sit well with me. So I believe that no matter what job you have, you should know how to make your own money one way or another. Learn to sell something, learn to build something, learn to fix something, learn to do
Mm.
something. You're not making your own dollar on the side, and you're gonna run into a problem you ain't gonna be able to deal with.
There was a time that fixing things and working these blue collar jobs was an admirable thing in our community. Most specifically, we're talking to black men sitting here in the black community. Where do you think the switch happened to where everybody focused more on entertainment, sports, and just fast cash, right?
I think the switch simply happened with entertainment. It happened with media, with cameras, with radio, with movies. You know, that wasn't what was presented to be cool. You know, I can't remember a movie where there was a dope ass carpenter. You know, Just, I I don't remember one. I don't remember any songs about any really dope carpenters. Um, it was all, you know, usually something negative. You know, usually and if it wasn't negative, we're talking the ball player thing. We're gonna rap, act, you know, tell jokes, sell drugs. We're gonna do, one of these basic things. If you wanna, I love Dave Chappelle, man,
Mm-hmm.
and that was one of his, funnier little skits to me where he said, "Man, I was at a school the other day, and I was trying to tell these kids, you want to make it out the ghetto, gotta you gotta learn to rap, play ball, or sell drugs or
Something.
something."
Yeah, I remember that Dave Chappelle show.
As much as that's funny, the realness of it stings. Realness of it stings a lot, because it's funny, but yeah, that's the reality that we have in front of us. But a lot of that reality stems from uh, losing the pipeline that we had as far as things being passed down, knowledge being passed
Mm.
down. Uh, you know, we were builders at one time. We built the nation. So fathers taught their sons to build, and that continued to happen for generations. And, all of a sudden, it stopped. There's a lot of different reasons that it stopped, and I believe that's mainly systematic reasons. But at the end of the day, we got the short end of the stick on that as far as losing knowledge and information and having it being replaced with bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of where we are as a culture right now. Is chewing on the bullshit and ignoring everything around us that could that could uplift us. So yeah,
What are some?
yeah. It's takes some educating, man. Takes some
I was
educating,
just gonna ask.
takes some teaching.
That's some parallel thinking. What are some ways that we can? Because I look at people our age and up, and I'm not saying that that we're lost cause by any means, but I think it's more fruitful to focus on Generation X. Our children and the younger generation. What's something we can do to start to counteract this misinformation and for us to look instead of looking at entertainment and entertainers and saying that's the way, the only way. How do we do like a blue collar 2.0 sell to the younger generation?
I think I I think that it is more fruitful to deal with them, but I also know as a father, you know, the biggest way that I can lead my child is to show him.
Mm.
And if he sees me in certain things, then he knows through seeing me do them. I got a buddy of mine, man. He's worked in a factory for years, years. Ever since we got out of high school, pretty much. And here recently he put that down and picked up a locksmith trade. And all the kids in his house are saying, "Hey man, I want to be a locksmith. I want to be a locksmith." And he was talking to me about that. And I was like, "Man, that's cool. That's what's up. That's very respectable. That's dope." And we got a little deeper into the conversation, and he was telling me why he thought they said it, and I'm like, "Nah, man. Like they said that because all of a sudden they're living this dope
Mm.
life. You know, they went not being able to have shoes when they wanted to have shoes to now you got a couple pairs just hanging out over here to getting the bootleg haircuts, but now y'all getting the good haircuts, the nice cuts, and seeing a difference in the way you're living.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're noticing these. You're noticing that hey, when I say hey mom, I get $20 to go to the movies, instead of getting a speech about what we don't have and what I can't afford and what you ain't doing, you just get $20. You know what I mean? So they both see the differences in that. So they're like, man, this locksmith thing must be all right. So uh, yeah, man, I think it takes more of that, man. It takes more people having these jobs and being able to show, look, man, my life ain't no less than whatever it is that you're looking for. These kids just right now they're presented with all of the diamonds and the gold and this and that, and right off the bat the only way they think they can get it is illegal. You know, they're not being shown carpenters who drive the same cars that the drug dealers drive, who wear the same clothes that the drug dealers wear, who have and do a lot of the same things that these individuals that you consider to be successful do and have. Uh, they just don't get the focus because they're not the quote unquote cool kid.
Mm-hmm.
But and if you were to be able to look into these people's lives, you would see the benefits of what it is that they do, and being able to do it yourself.
Now you mentioned earlier
And
that oh, what were we talking about? I think it was you talked about your son and set him up with the hot dog slash lemonade stand, and kind of this ideal of you
yeah,
got to
yeah,
teach your children because if you don't, somebody will. And I know that just like
absolutely.
just like the thing that you just said, where they're asking parents, okay, scenario, you got single parent mother, she's got to work a couple of jobs, and she's not really around the kid as much as she would like to be. There's no father figure at home, and then the kid is looking at people and what they're wearing, what is deemed cool, and with that need to try to fit in, they're approached by someone who's like, "Hey, little man, here's $20, go get something to eat. Here's $30, go get a video game or something." I mean, well, video games, what, 60, $70 now? Just these little frivolous things to kind of get them on board much easier than it was, back in the day, right? So, I that's an important thing to be able to show it. So what do you say to people who are just like, man, ain't no jobs out here? You know, what advice would you give them as a self-made person, right? An entrepreneur.
Well, number one, that's the reason for the being self-made and the entrepreneurship is ain't no jobs out here. Not wanting to hear that. Not wanting to hear ain't no jobs out here or go home. This ain't your job no more. You know. So before I'll let another man control my path with a dollar, you know, I get that myself. You know. Comes down to it. If I need to get that dollar, I'm gonna get that dollar. Um,
What do you say?
I don't jobs. I still believe in, you know, you're gonna have a job, you know, get that money, you know, but use that money, you know. Don't just take that money and pay your bills and be broke at the end of the week. You know, find a way to put back some of that money for yourself and invest little by little until you have something for yourself, you know.
What are you saying to someone who's out there right now who, products of their environment, they're looking around and they're seeing people, quote unquote, get money, the fast way. What do you say to someone like that? And do you have any experience yourself that you can speak to give, I guess, greater validity to what you have to say?
Yeah, man. To anybody that, you know, everybody has decisions to make in life, you know. So at the end of the day, nothing I say or anybody else says, no matter uh, how much validity is in it, it's still up to you at the end of the day, you know. But I will tell you that it looks great, man. It does. It looks great, feels great a lot of time. You know, I'd be lying to you if it's almost like having a conversation with a kid about sex. You know, I'd be lying to you if I told you it wasn't great. You know, awesome. You know, but if I don't tell you how bad it could be, I'd be less than I'd be less than a father, less than a role model. I wouldn't be doing my position any justice. You know, so just like that sex, it can be great. You know, but just like that sex, it can be bad. You know, there's some shit you can't get rid of. Meaning uh, time. They will take your time away. Having your freedom snatched is, you've never had your freedom snatched, go sit in the bathroom, close the door. But realize that when they close the door, that door is locked. And you can't get up and open it. Locked until they say it's not locked. That's just how they would cry, be mad, you can punch the walls. I went through all of this, did all of that. Every emotion you had behind that door, I had. And the door never unlocked. So that's where I learned jail, man. Jail taught me a lot. It's a hell of a anger management. You know, I don't think as far as a rehabilitation device, it's worth it. I think jail actually deepened my criminal activity. I went to jail and it was kind of like college. Mm-hmm. I just linked up with all the criminals in the city that was doing what I was doing. I got out, just made me a better criminal. But at the end of the day, I still didn't get the end result that I wanted out of it. The end result you want is the happiness and every cool thing that you can think of. You know, money, the girls, cars, jewelry, the clothes, you know, the stash of money. You know. That's all that was on my mind. You know, and I gained a lot of those. You know, and I lost a lot of those over and over. over and over. I had to gain them only to lose. Occasionally, I lost them to the situations to the police, having to forfeit things to them, having them take things from me that I felt like I worked hard for. Another time, it was you know, the streets themselves, niggas. You are you are the man or dealer, whatever you want to call yourself. The police ain't they not the they not the real people you gotta really worry about. These jealous hearted cats next to you really gotta worry about. They're not um, they're not happy with seeing somebody right next to them that they don't feel like is any better than them uh, living this way, doing these things. So it's not what it's
Cracked up to be.
what it's laid out. Yeah, yeah. I've been tied up, I've been damn near left for dead in my own home. Um, so been in a lot of different situations,
So
but
talk to me.
thank God.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
So talk to me a little bit because I'm a firm believer that we're supposed to learn from each of our experiences, be it good or bad, positive or negative.
yeah.
What's the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway that you learned from your experience in jail and dealing with the police on that level and criminals, all of that? Just what's the biggest thing that you were taught at that university?
Um, the biggest thing that I was able to, I learned a lot of things, man. And I would never influence anybody to do the things that I've done. I would purposely steer you away from it. With my experience personally, um, I already did it. I can't take it back. Kind of is what it is. But man, jail taught me a lot. It taught me how to further interact with people that I don't know, uh, uh, how to deal in different types of situations. It also taught me a lot about people, different types of people. You know, I was able to look around and see that there were certain people that were in jail that, they honestly just made a mistake, got caught up in the moment, what have you, dealing with the consequence at that time. You got other cats that, it's just how they live their life. They may be out in October, but they'll be back in December. They, it's just a revolving door. Not only that, even sadder, you got cats committing crime just to go to jail, because they don't have a home or not getting three square meals. I've seen the police not accept people because, you got people damn near committing crimes in the parking lot, trying to get locked up. Like, it's cold outside. You know? And I've seen them be denied. Like, man, take your old drunk ass, get out of here. you know.
Well, that sounds like one of my wife and I, wife slash producer over here. One of our favorite movies is The Shawshank Redemption. This ideal of people being
Yeah.
institutionalized and just can't handle freedom. I couldn't even imagine something like that. Did you ever come across
Oh,
that?
what happens? Yeah, most definitely, man. That's real. I ended up, man. I was, and these just stories throughout my life, man. Some things I went through, but I was in Lansing, Michigan at the time, man. And, I was around a crew of guys, real good guys, man. And one of them guys was about to come home. I had the privilege to meet him. He comes home, and we pick him up, show him a good time right off the bat. Of course, we showing him everything that he hasn't been able to see, giving him a good time. We want smiles on your face the moment we see. We showing him a good time, having fun and everything. somehow, man, the guy gets. I didn't mention, he did a 14-year stretch, and his son was just being born when he went in. So when he comes home, his son's like 15. And his son has kind of gotten into some street shit. His son's kind of gotten involved, a little active. So yeah, man, his son, comes to the celebration and all of that and whatnot. They're enjoying themselves. Everything's great. Well, the next day, I guess his son decided to tell his dad, "Hey, man, I know a lick, a little robbery we could do." So his dad was like, "Okay, let's do that." But his father warned him, and I know hindsight because directly after this happened, the guys ran, ended up where we were, telling us the story. But his father told everybody before it happened, "Look here, man, anything go wrong, I'm killing everybody now." So uh, they went. Um, didn't find the person that they were looking for. They found a girl there. Uh, things went sideways. They couldn't get her to stop screaming. He did just what he said he was going to do. And after that manhunt kind of started for him. A couple of days later, he back in there. You know what I mean? But the thing that happens with these guys, man, is when you do that long in prison, you start to build a life and develop a life in prison. You adapt, while you don't have all of the things that you have on the street to be somebody. There's still things that are valuable in prison, and you begin to collect these things, stay on top of these situations. You build your own life. You become somebody, even if it's just through respect. It may be through whooping somebody's ass, whatever. You find a way to gain that respect. And some guys, that's all they have. And they come home, and now they got to see all of these, you got these kids that when you went to jail, and this kid was, 12, 13 years old. He was a nobody. Now he's got a band and a big chain. Everybody knows him and loves him, and nobody's paying me any attention anymore. I'm nobody. I got to get a job at Burger King, wherever, So the feeling of being somebody is shot down, lowered, and they had expectations, and eventually they just decide to go back, and start on the path to
So
hit back.
it can be a status thing, huh? Is that what you're saying? That people feel sometimes coming home is a downgrade as far as your status?
As far as your status, yeah, absolutely. Because when I was in prison, I was somebody. Even if I was just known to be that near, he'd knock you out if you say the wrong thing. But then you come home, you got all of these kids tick-tocking and twerking, and the world moving so fast, and now you're nobody. You don't have any money, you don't stand out, nobody knows you or cares who you are. You just dirty nigga that just stepped out of prison. So, and you begin to feel that way. You begin to feel that way. And I guess after they begin to feel that way, if they can't adapt, they just go back. Go back.
We're definitely aiming people. And I know I'll tend to repeat myself because I think it's very important to truly try to understand how the human brain works. There's that experiment out there that had some college kids volunteer to wear these goggles. That what it did is it inverted your vision, and so 2 3 days they had to have somebody kind of guide them around campus, and then after about a week or so, they were able to walk, type, and do everything. Like the brain just completely said, "Okay, well, this is our life now," and it just adapted so quickly and so strongly that some of them had trouble taking the goggles off and then adapting again. So those people who are out there, I
Yeah.
really stress that you always try to put yourself in someone's shoes and be careful with these broad statements of like, oh, I would never. Oh, if that was me, I would. Because you just never know until you're actually in the situation. You like to think the best of yourself, but that's the thing about being a human. That brain, you literally can program it and control it to a way that you can believe just about anything.
Yeah, most definitely.
How
Uh,
long were you in, if you don't mind me asking?
the tongue is
Sorry.
one of the most. Um, it's all good. I did 2.5 years, so it wasn't a terribly long amount of time, but it was definitely long enough for me to realize, that's not where I want to spend the majority of my life. Uh, just being under somebody else's control like that all day, not where it's at. It's not what you want. Like you want to be able to control your own destiny as much as you can. And in there, you know, it's dulled down, dumbed down a lot. Your chances to control your own destiny is very slim. You're talking about how much exercise you can pack into a few hours in this couple of feet. That's about all the extent that you can control. How much you're gonna read today. Outside of those, you really your decision making is taken. That ain't the way.
What did you do to pass your time? Did you pick up any new skill or study anything? Did you find yourself reading more? How does that work? How did you pass your time?
Nah, man, I was still a knucklehead, man, during them jail years. So I didn't do long enough that I got converted in such a way that I was just gonna be a good boy and straighten up. It was just enough time for me to be like, okay, I gotta learn to fake it a little bit. And, I survived all kind of ways. Sleep was very heavy for me. Uh, I had kind of my own little hustle going inside of the jail, so I learned to make money inside of the jail. I said I kind of met a network of people, learned a lot of different things about where I live, who to deal with. I, I just did the time. I just did the time. I did the time knowing that my out date wasn't so far ahead that I might as well just go ahead and settle in for a minute. By the time I settle in, it'll be over.
Can you talk a little bit about your side gig? Is that something you could talk about?
My
Well, yeah,
past side gig.
in one you were actually in prison.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just that's that entrepreneur spirit, from a very young man. I think the way I got started, man, was a friend of mine. I won't call no names, but he knows who he is. People around me might know who he is, but yeah, man, we was going to school and it was around time for the prom, and this dude showed up. He was super clean and fresh and had the new jewelry, and the shoes was on point, the suit was on point, and had a new car. And I'm like, man, what are you doing? Where are you getting this money from? You know, and he showed me, well, this is what I'm doing. I'm dealing with this person. He kind of gave me a quick rundown, and after that, I was like, hey, man, I want in. You know, from that day forward, I kind of just stayed involved one way or another,
That's a bonus story.
no matter where I
I
live.
was talking more about your side
That's what.
hustle in prison, actually in prison. Is that something you could talk about? But that was a very interesting story,
Oh,
and it makes me not feel so bad about my
yeah,
parents at Cox. I'm like looking at my parents like, man, these people are dope. Like, look at this. They got all the shoes, all of the stuff. Like, what are y'all not doing? I need to have a family meeting and figure out what are y'all not doing so I can look like I want to look like that. What's happening? Yeah. So I
yeah,
owe them an apology.
yeah. I feel you. No,
No,
man,
no,
my
good.
bad, my bad. No, I was in in jail, man, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but I was selling something called Seroquel. Seroquel is a pill that it's a sleeping pill. It's sedative, you know. So yeah, basically I was selling sleep, you know. Guy wanted to sleep a couple days off. I had what he needed, you know. So um, that was my side hustle in there.
How do you even? So
Worked
is
out.
it the other prisoners who had that prescribed, who were you got it from them, or was it a CEO? Like, how do you even get the materials to start that sort of an enterprise?
Honestly, all of the above. Like, if you can think of it, that's
Okay,
how it come in. You know, these places are dirty. They all dirty. You know, the people are dirty. You know, you got 10 of these guards, you know, two of them probably compromised. You know what I mean? So just about just about knowing who knows what, you know, and anywhere in life, inside of jail, outside of jail, is information is key. But who knows what? You know what I mean? Who holds this information? Once you start knowing who holds what information, you know, you kind of get where you want to get.
that is amazing. Cause I'll tell you something. I don't know if you know this or not, but I was a corrections officer for just a little bit of time. I had an injury, so I didn't last long.
Oh,
But
oh
I'm
wow.
telling you, I wouldn't have been able to make it anyway. So I kind of know, in just that small amount of time, I went through the academy, had my injury during the academy. I did like a little office job, but just those small interactions, man. Like, so it was an all women's prison too, and so like we had to learn like how to
Oh
deal,
man,
yeah,
you
how to
work.
deal with cat calling and all that kind of stuff. It was like it was crazy, man. And some of the stories they
Yeah,
told us, like about how smart the prisoners are. Like he said, one thing you need to understand is they have all the time in the world. You know, you come here and work your shift, but this is their entire life. So all they do is sit around and find ways to, skirt around the rules or exploit the rules in any way they can. One of my favorite stories is we had to keep our keys tucked into our pockets at all times. And so I asked why that was, and they were like, "Well, we got some people who can look at the design of your key, the shape of it, memorize it, carve it out of something, and they've actually had people to fashion keys." And I just thought this person should be at MIT somewhere, you know? Are you kidding me? Like they just look at the key and then can
mm-hmm.
recreate every little notch and then actually make something to get in and out. Like it was nuts, man. Just how many people are who should be somewhere else. You know what I mean? Just the smarts that goes on with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
so I was always curious about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, you know, cats in there are real, you know, very smart. You know, I remember you when you don't have a choice, you come up with
Hmm.
shit. You know what I mean? You figure it out. You know, and that's sometimes that's one of my teaching tools.
Figured out.
Figure it out. You know, I use it. You know, when I feel like I need to use it, but you know, figure it out is a hell of a teaching tool. You know, I remember a couple of different situations, man, where just getting to see guys' ingenuity, not just theirs, but my own. You know, I sent some things to the laundry, man, like in the first couple of weeks that I was there. Some of it didn't come back. Other things came back with a hole in it or something. And, you know, you got so many pieces of clothes in jail. Not sending my shit and messing it up everything. Eventually, I was like, I'm not sending my clothes down there no more. I'm going to wash them myself. I had access to a trash bag. Took the trash bag, filled it with water. I had a plastic spoon, so I cracked it with my teeth, made a sharp edge, and filed down the soap and the powder. You know, popped that in the bag, and twisted it, shook it back and forth, get it out, refilled it, repeat the process, did that over a couple times, regular water, rinse them out, dry them up. You know, this was something that passed my time. It allowed me to pass my time, but it also allowed me to not have to worry or wonder where my stuff was, or would I get it back, or what condition it would be in, or did it really get washed, you know. So I just started doing different things on my own like that, and it forces you to think, it forces you to come up with things. I had another situation, man, where sometimes you have a cellmate, sometimes you don't. During this particular time, I had a cellmate. You know, I just got this cellmate like first day, like day one. And dude decides he's gonna take a shit. You know, I'm like, man, I just met you, and saying I want to meet you. You know, so he does his thing, starts off doing his thing, smells horrible, and I'm just, man, this is my life right now. All of a sudden, man, dude reaches down and picks up this sock and starts slapping the wall. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? You know, oh, it's an air freshener. I said, what do you mean it's an air freshener? You know, and all of a sudden, the smell hits me. I'm like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
like that, I don't know what you're doing. But, you know, hit the wall again. You know, so he hits the wall a couple more times, and next thing you know, it's like he ain't even doing nothing. I'm like, what is in there? How did you do that? You know, like, oh man, I just, and that's where I got the idea to wash my clothes. He was like, yeah, man, I just took a fork or took a spoon and cracked it and shaved it down to powder, put it in this sock, you know. And every time I hit it against the wall, it releases some of the powder, you know, and you get the smell. I was
That
like,
is
man,
so.
you niggas are
That's so dope.
genius. You know? And I was so sad in that moment, you know, but seeing the genius of the nigga in the situation was like wow, like,
Yeah. No victim.
man, can't
Yeah.
believe
No
this fucking
victimization. It's just this
unlocked it.
thing of I'm gonna like you said, figure it out, and I'm not gonna sit. I can waste my time sitting here thinking about my situation, how messed up it is, which I'm sure there was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that, but putting that energy to use, for the small things like an air freshener, that is awesome, man. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. So, for the kids out there, I'm gonna recall something you said before, talking about the people. I've never heard anything about a dope carpenter, right? There's a movie out there. One
Right.
of my favorite movies. The Score. I think it's like Robert De Niro and what's that dude name? Ed Norton. Basically, they're heist specialists, and so Robert De Niro's the older thief, and he's working with this younger guy. And the younger guy asked him, he's like, how do you got all this stuff? Like, what, how do you never spent any jail time, got caught or anything? And he said, well, it's simple. He said, I'm very careful. He said, well, how do I get to be careful like you? I, kind of looking up to him. He says, well, here's what you do. You write down everything in this world that you could absolutely imagine that you want. He said, then you just spend your rest of your life slowly acquiring it. You don't have to get everything at once. How do we get that mindset into Generation X? You mentioned the hot dog stand and really being the example. What do we do to, I guess, get adults our age and then our children with that sort of mindset?
Again, I just feel like, it's a show and prove thing, you know. And I can talk to you about it till I'm blue in the face. You know, I can try to present these great plans to you, you know. But the best way for you to really get what I'm telling you is for you to see it. And I know that if I really want you to understand, I have to show you. So we start that pipeline back up of showing each other and passing that knowledge down. It's always going to be somewhat of a broken system, a broken chain. You know, we have to rebuild those pipelines and fill them with information and pass that information down. You know, without that, there's going to be gaps in our history like we have now. You know, there's going to be breaks. There's going to be, things that we thrived in that all of a sudden aren't even conversations in our community. You know, so I feel like that's what it's going to take. You know?
Well, I'm one of those that definitely leans on my religion. And as a Christian, is all throughout the Bible it talks about basically, not looking at other people. There's that phrase out there. What is it? Be the change you want to be. Right. That old Bible story of like before you start judging the world and everything else, like make sure you're setting yourself up, setting your house in perfect order before you try to fix the world or judge the world.
Mhm.
So I like that aspect of be the change that you want to be. Now you did mention some things about because it's not just any one thing that has caused like a group of people to kind of backslide. So you mentioned about entertainment changing. So I'm assuming you're talking about like it went from
Mhm.
people who talked about money, cars, and clothes and drugs and all that stuff, but they also had some encouraging words. They pushed back on some government things. Public enemy. Those type of things. What let me see. So
I would, I would,
yeah,
I would invite people, man, to you know, whether you're my age or our age or one of our kids, if you have any interest in this topic, I would invite you to listen to some of the music of the people that were rapping in, the middle '80s, the early '90s, and just kind of see what they had to say, you know, um, see the difference in what they had to say, you know. And the only reason I can actually say that is because they had something to say, There's not many artists that are doing music in today's generation that I can say, hey, check him out and see what he has to say. Because most of them don't have anything to say, just making songs, making feel good music for a moment that has no necessary purpose. Uh, I come from a generation that if you listen to music, you should have gotten some kind of game from it. If you didn't get any kind of game from it, it wasn't good. It wasn't good music. So there's been all these different decades have experienced something different when it comes to the music that's been presented or provided to them. Feel like in the '70s, in the '70s and '80s, or there definitely the '70s was kind of the party scene, the disco light scene. Just take it easy, party, drink. That probably had something to do with the cocaine spike and things like that, and just party. Just party. No real problems, no nothing like that. So sexual energy was real high back then. Drugs were real high back then. Partying in general was real high back then. So that was what their music was about. That's what they were keying in on, and the vast majority of their listeners. That's the kind of people they wanted. I feel like in the '80s, the music that my culture was listening to, our culture was a little more informative. It was you had your KRS ones, your Public Enemies, uh, you know, Grand Puba,
X Clan.
Wu
Yeah.
Tang
My
Clan,
producer said X Clan,
X,
Dead Prez.
a lot. Yes, yes, you had guys with a real message. You had a lot of, even before them, you had NWA. You had a lot of people that had a very political view on what was happening. That were able to speak for our culture uh, from that perspective. You know, it's hard to just because you're a person that speaks on broad stroke painting as far as your words go, and it's hard to we don't want to just lock everybody into that, but they were speaking for uh, a section of our culture. Not the whole thing, but definitely people in our culture that go through a lot of the things that they spoke about politically. Um, so that decade and that generation was educated when it came to what came out of their mouths and what they shared with you. You know, they also I know they my brother had a black medallion with Africa
Oh
on it.
yeah.
You know, that was a that was a heavy thing. That was a lot of them. A lot of those guys you would see that meant something to them. It was a deep thing. It might be the Malcolm X one. They were into a deeper black culture. You know, and all of a sudden, the music changed. It went from being informative and educational and political and addressing issues that really needed to be addressed to what I like to call the bling bling culture. You know, around the time Lil Wayne and the Hot Boy clique and all of that was hot. At that time, everybody got rid of them African medallions and started to get whatever chain they could afford. Real one or the fake one or whatever. It was about an image, about a look. Uh, Music became less education, more about what you got.
That's
Show
amazing.
me, put in my
I like
face.
that the bling bling culture. So, do you think it's a direct correlation from like KRS One to the bling bling culture, and then how we look at blue collar work versus I'm gonna be a rapper, gangster, or some sort of entertainer to get acquire these things instead of over time through blue collar work, savings, and entrepreneurship.
Most most definitely. I mean, the majority of these guys, even if you're just listening to them, speaking about getting their hands dirty, it's not something they're ever talking about unless they're talking about, wiping blood off
Right.
of them or something stupid. But yeah, using their hands for work and sweating and hard activity, that's not a conversation that you hear in this music, you know. So you don't see it in these movies or these TV shows or these, so it's not being
Mm.
mimicked anymore. We used to have things to mimic. When I was growing up, there was a TV show called Rock. It had like a real black dad, with a real job. He was a garbage man. He took care of his whole family. His whole family looked up to him and loved him. Probably a lot of niggas that learned, hey man, I could be a garbage man and take care of my family. You know, uh, they stopped showing those things. You know, started to show more niggas selling drugs and shooting guns and doing what they deem to be cool. But they don't show you the videos of them niggas sitting in jail after those
Mm.
moments. If they did, maybe you see it different. And a lot of times, they're not just sitting in jail. Sometimes they're in jail getting their asses whooped, getting their food taken from them. They're not living a comfortable life.
Is there a movie out there like? Cause I go back to Shawshank Redemption. Like they pulled no punches, showing probably more of the extremes of prison. But is there a more I guess relevant movie now that kind of showcases that? Like here's how it is. Like just the mundaneness, the day by day. You're counting seconds, and 5 minutes seems like 10 years, and just how different people cope differently.
Uh, I mean, when you've been there, there's any movie that touches on it, is going to hit some point accurate. You know, there may be some things that they're not touching on, that they, but they didn't touch on. Hey man, and I've seen a lot of different stuff. Uh, a lot of what you hear is accurate in a sense, uh, um, but it's also just like the streets where, uh, you know, if you want to stay out of bullshit, you probably you want to be wrapped up in bullshit, not hard to get wrapped up in shit. So if you let a bunch of shit happen, you probably invited it. Now things do happen. People had no, you know, they didn't want it to happen. They weren't trying to be involved in things. Niggas do
Mm.
get raped. Stuff happens. Um, that's much more far and few in between people putting themselves in situations. Majority of the shit that happens, people put themselves in situations. But uh, a part of the danger factor is knowing, yeah, at any moment, one of these cats that has a life sentence or, you know, knows he's not getting out, doesn't have a reason to be good. At any moment in time, one of these niggas may just go off. uh, then I have a decision to make. Do I go there with this individual, knowing that I have an outtake that I can see, or do I succeed, calm down, and get to that outtake? Because if I don't, then I'm going to get pushed back outtake because I gained another charge being sucked into this situation, this individual that would never be. That happens. Yeah, jail's a tough thing.
I imagine so. Getting back into the bling culture, um, is there anybody that you're listening to currently that kind of reminds you of that, '90s, I guess, informational rap, hip hop, or any other genre?
Yeah, man, I can't really listen to music if I don't learn something. You know what I mean? Something like you have to give me some kind of game. You know what I mean? But there's different types of games. You can be informative in a lot of different areas. You know what I mean? But as far as positive information, I would say when I want to listen to rap music and hear something positive, I go to Lupe Fiasco. Uh, I I listen to an artist called Mr. Fab. He's a ghostwriter, also who inspired me to open the store that I opened. He's a very intelligent
Mr. Fab?
rapper. Yeah, it's actually Miss
Oh,
Mistah Fab. Yeah, yeah. But very intelligent dude, man. He's probably in his 40s, so he's not going to be focused on much of the bull as other artists. He throws it in there sometimes for them, I think. But you can hear in a lot of his music, in a lot of his songs, the depth, the life experience, lessons. So I like to hear things like that. I like to hear people who've been through something and have a story to tell versus hearing a young guy hasn't really started life and is excited because he got his first kid.
see, I like
That's
people like
really cool.
um, my producer's telling me conscious rappers. I feel like there are some out there like you
Yeah.
have your Kendrick Lamar's and your J Cole's. One of my favorite stories about J Cole is using college to try to get a record deal. And in one of his songs, he talks about how he went from North Carolina to New York because he knew that's where people, did music the best. I mean, that's the mecca, right? As far as hip hop and all that sort of thing. But he was up there trying to get his mixtape out to different people and just kept grinding and grinding and grinding till he eventually graduated college while he was waiting to get a record. Like it was never really, truly his aim to get a college education, but that was a way to get a little bit of money,
Mm-hmm.
some food. He had a place to stay in New York that was relatively cheap because college campus or whatever. But I think that kind of grind, and you can really see it come across in his music. So I don't know. What do you think about people like that?
Yeah. Um, I think he's dope, man. Um, I think J. Cole is dope. I like his approach. I like where he's coming from. Um, I tend to listen to artists that have a bit of a street edge because I have a bit of a street edge. So that's kind of where we line up. It's not simply the fact that you're intellectual, but you're intellectual seeing some of the pictures that I've seen. So when you speak about the intellect you have, you are able to use things that we've seen to make it line up. And I really respect it. But I respect Cole and his lane as well. Guys like that. I call some of those conscious rappers, I call those backpack
Backpack
rappers.
rappers, yeah.
Um, yeah, you know what I mean? But they, hey, man, um, he's in his lane and he kill it. I
Yeah,
respect
look, and I know we were talking before about Jordan Lucas, man. I love people who makes me think or makes me react or feel some kind of way. I mean, it could be UGK or people like Jordan Lucas and like J Cole has a song out now. I think it's let me look at my notes here. The Climb Back. Man, you should check that out. Like I literally listened to it and I thought, oh okay, I see what he's doing here. You know, but I can see for you how it would make more sense. Like
it.
someone who lived that life and kind of flipped it and turned it into rap, telling their stories. They have some talent, they have some intelligence, but the experience. Would that be fair to say? You cling more to the people with real life experience.
Yeah, to the people with real life experience. There's a lot of people that, especially in the rap game, are telling stories that I know that you didn't do that, and I know you didn't do that because I did that. That's how I go. And that's okay. That happens too. But just knowing the difference.
Mm.
Yep.
So we've talked a lot about some of your personal experiences, some of some things that you went through and learned from. If you're rebranding blue collar work to this new generation, how are you doing it?
Got to show them their lives, man. You gotta let them get deeper than the picture that they see, which is some guy with a hammer or and honestly they probably not even seeing that picture. These are things that they just pass by and don't have any thought of. So I would have to show them, hey man, you know how this gets done, you know how this house gets built, you know how these pipes get in this house, you know how the air conditioner gets fixed, you got to bring up these conversations. If you bring up those conversations, if you can find a piece of interest, show them somebody that does this, let them see, hey, this guy lives in a nice house, drives a nice car, takes care of his whole family, everybody loves him. He's going to be good in the next 10 years. He got a boat, he can retire, that sounds like a good life. But nobody presented that to a lot of these kids, to myself personally, So we went after what we saw, what was presented to us. What was presented was the drug dealer, the rapper, the basketball player, football player. So these are the things we pursue. But if we were able to visually see some of these workers that make a big difference in our country, in our lives, in our cultures, in our households, we were able to see some of these skills that they have, we might respect some of those just as well, but we don't see that. We don't take the time to look for it, to show it.
Well, that's really powerful, man. I look forward. Look, I gotta get you to come back. What do you say?
Most
Good.
definitely, man. Most
I still
definitely. I
have more
enjoyed every minute.
questions. So, yeah. So thank you so much for joining me, man, and thank you all for watching with us. This is Anthony Richard. Please support him at. Am I getting the name right? Trendy Clothing.
The Trend Clothing Company is the name of
The
it.
Trend Clothing Company, right there in Columbia, Tennessee, on Carmack
Yep.
Boulevard. And so he's already you heard it here that he's gonna come back, and I'm very interested to see. I like what you have to say, especially about working on Gen Z. That's a huge focal point for me And yeah, I look forward to hearing from you pretty soon, really soon. Thank you.
Most definitely. Most definitely. I look forward to coming back.